There we go. We are live in the Birdhouse for the 2024 NFL Draft. Rounds two and three. We're doing a recap here in the Birdhouse Dynasty show, brought to you by Choice Sports Cards, your number one choice in buying and selling sports cards. Check out Kyle over on Whatnot. He's got great action going there this weekend. Good times with Kyle and the boys. So tonight we've got a special guest, Matt English, down in Houston, here to share his thoughts on rounds two and three. But before that, we might go back and do a little recap of round one, where we had some fireworks, 14 straight offensive players taken in that first round. I have never seen anything like that. I couldn't even tell you what the record was that they broke there. Uh, Matt, what are your thoughts on the first round before we get into rounds two and three? If you can sum it up as easily as possible.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me on again. And the first round, you know, didn't have the early fireworks that I think there was a lot of hype for. Uh, we did get a lot of fantasy relevant players that went early, right? You had three quarterbacks right out the gates, followed by Marvin Harrison, and then a couple picks later, Malik Neighbors, and then Roma Dunze teaming up with Caleb Williams is always a fun look from a fantasy perspective. It's a rookie stack. It's fun to talk about. But the big shocker there for me inside the top 10 was the Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the big shocker for everybody, Matt. I was just dumbfounded with that one. I mean, I don't know what were you, I know it worked for the Packers with Jordan Love, but I mean, come on, Jordan Love's 3 years young was 3 years younger than Penix when the Packers tried that idea.
It's had a lot of success. I mean, they're paying Kirk Cousins 180 million. I know there's some outs in the contract, but what's reported is 4 years.
Right.
That's probably shocking to him. I do, like I said, I do like the idea of having a young quarterback wait, learn, and then go in. So that way it's not a complete waste on that investment by them just getting destroyed, not knowing what they're doing. Just a little shocked at where this happened without any knowledge. No one saw it coming. No one saw this coming. So, in fact, I don't think Michael Penix had a top 30 visit with the Falcons.
Right. I mean, now being a dynasty show, what do you think the impact is on him and his value in your drafts? Like where would you actually be willing to take Michael Penix right now? I mean, I gotta think I'd want just about any of the wide receivers that got taken tonight, rounds two and three ahead of him. I mean, do you really want to sit and wait for a quarterback to play? Um, you know, the earliest in maybe 3 years from now. I just Yeah, I'm talking super flex. Yeah, I'm talking super flex two quarterback.
If you have 4 rounds in your rookie draft, I feel comfortable on it.
Yeah, I could probably see him still going a little earlier, maybe. It just depends on how comfortable people are feeling with their thoughts on the wide variety of wide receivers we have in this draft. Um, you know, it was funny because last night I just had gotten finished up speaking how highly I thought of Michael Penix, and then I was laughing at Adam Schefter and his take that the Falcons were heavily considering him at number 8, and I was just complimenting Penix as they were showing him on the TV, and then they go ahead and take him, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like of all the times for Schefter to actually be right, it had to be that one.
Right.
But, that's what he does for a living, so, I mean, he's gonna be right once in a while on his wild takes, so
True, even the sun shines on a horse's.
horse's ass. Yeah, we can say it, that's fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some shocking trades that happened towards the end of the first round. Buffalo moved back twice, completely out of the first round. The
Yes.
shocker trade to me was them actually trading with the Chiefs, allowing them to jump up and go get Xavier Worthy.
Right.
And now Tyree Jr. in the building.
Yes.
That's scary.
Yes, it is. It's very scary, and I agree with you. It was just shocking to me that the Bills would actually allow the Chiefs to do something like that. I mean, I get trading back because, the Bills needed a lot of draft picks for this particular draft. They lost a lot of free agents that they had to, get rid of to shed salary. Um, but yeah, trading with your number one competition to get to the Super Bowl within the conference, it was pretty surprising. Now, when we get into the beginning of the second and third round tonight, we'll see who the Bills did like, and they still grabbed a receiver at the top of the second round. Um, but I guess to finish off on the first round, just to wrap it up, I mean, all told, what were there, 23, 24 offensive players selected if you count all the linemen? Uh, I mean, the previous record was, yeah, fantasy relevant. We had 14 players in the first round. Um, I mean, what were the first seven other than other than Alt? Like the first 10 picks were all fantasy relevant.
Oh, sure that. Yeah, JC Latham went to the.
Oh yeah, the Titans grabbed. But I mean, even then, it's still fantasy relevant being linemen. Alt is definitely helping the Chargers attack. The new Harbaugh, Greg
Sure.
Roman attack. That's an ideal pick for them. And then the Titans, of course, everybody was pegging them for Alt at 7, but then with the Chargers grabbing him, they went ahead and just grabbed the next best tackle, and that's definitely going to help Will Levis and the guys there. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it just all leads up to this round 2 tonight, and as many of you out there have seen, we're let's see, right now we are actively at pick 88 with the Packers, so we're almost near the end of the third round. And the Packers just took Marshawn Lloyd. Here we go. There's the replacement for Aaron Jones, right?
Tell you this, there's a lot of analysts out in fantasy that really like Marshawn Lloyd. There's several that have him as the RB1 in this class. Now, high ceiling, potentially lower floor, right?
For sure.
I like. There's all security concerns, but I mean that doesn't always go to the next level. It very rarely does. Let's see, Jonathan Taylor, he fumble concerns when he was drafted.
Yeah.
One of the best running backs in the league. So
Right.
I think he's a fantastic pick. Josh Jacobs will be seeding some carries, and so his value is probably going to take a little bit of hit, especially with the way the Packers like to run a running back by committee. Regardless of who is better than the other, they're going to mix him in.
Yes, definitely. I think also the way that the Packers were able to structure Josh Jacobs' contract plays into here too. It is a 4-year deal, but it's really a year-to-year 4-year deal, so to speak. They have multiple outs in that deal. So just not to nitpick it, but that kind of plays into why the Packers were willing to go running back this early in the draft. Um, so Tampa just picked a safety from Georgia. Hey, can't go wrong with Georgia defensive players. I'm good with that. Um, but getting back to let's get back to the second round, which started tonight, and we started that off with the Buffalo Bills going out and getting their guy after trading back, like you mentioned, twice in the first round. They started off tonight by grabbing Keon Coleman out of Florida State. A lot of people were rough on Keon after his slow 40 time in the combine, but I believe the last time you were on with me, you definitely mentioned that that 40 times shouldn't really matter as much as some would like to think.
Oh, let's see what he looks like on the field. What's his actual game speed? I mean, yes, the 40 is a wonderful indication for explosiveness. I don't think that's a big concern for him. If you look at the rest of his numbers, not bad. Just a bad 40 time. But, I mean, he plays faster than what that's going to show.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's the big concern. I think the biggest concern with Keon Coleman is going to be consistency, right?
definitely.
He put up, but not overwhelming numbers for a number one wide receiver, especially who had that talk. But I mean, again, he's a second round receiver. I said he reminded me a lot of Travis Benjamin, also from Florida State a few years back, just from a body build and the way that he goes after 50-50 balls.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's going to fill a good need for the Bills. I expect to see them go out and get another receiver, if not here in the third, maybe the fourth round as well. They've got very small receiver room that needs some help.
Yeah, yes, it does. I mean, with just Khalil Shakir and the newly acquired Curtis Samuel, I think that they probably will snap up one more receiver at some point in this year's draft. But I do like the Keon Coleman selection. I see his ceiling almost, it could be as high as, I see a little Des Bryant in his game. Des had a slow 40 time, but as we all know, for the majority of his career, he was definitely able to go up and get those 50-50 jump balls. Now that is the high end ceiling for Keon Coleman. Obviously, this was a pick that he does have a low floor at the same time. So we'll see. I'm sure the Bills will be more than happy if he just ends up somewhere in between that, but can't be bad at getting the ball thrown to you from Josh Allen going deep. So it should be exciting for Keon Coleman. Now after that, we had the next pick. The Chargers went ahead and traded up, and they scooped up Lad McConkey with that pick, and I think that's definitely a nice Jim Harbaugh type pick as well. Uh, I think Justin Herbert's happy. I mean, all this talk about the run game in with the Chargers now with Harbaugh and Greg Roman there. I think it's definitely taken a hit to Justin Herbert's value. Um, I mean, let's just talk about Justin Herbert's value now. I know he just added Lad McConkey, but he lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams this offseason. So all he had in the room was Josh Palmer and the disappointing Quentin Johnston. So now he has Lad McConkey, who isn't, exactly an alpha type receiver. He's more of a good complementary receiver. I do like Lad McConkey. I just don't know that I see him as, a real trailblazer out there. So what do you think of, okay, let's start with Herbert. What do you think of Herbert's value? Because I think that I could say in Dynasty that Kyler Murray has surpassed Justin Herbert, I guess is what I think it is.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things. I think he's a really good slot receiver. Good hands, going to make the catches that he's asked to make. He's bring your what do you call it? Your pail and your hard hat.
Yeah,
kind of guy.
right.
Right. So that makes sense, but they're still missing the big threat outside. So I mean, it helps her value a little bit that they're drafting a receiver in the second round. Would like to see them go after somebody that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Somebody that would more fit that role of a field stretcher that's going to help open up the run game in turn two. But we'll see what happens. I do think his value is been slowly coming down since Harbaugh took the top.
Yeah,
Everyone knows what's going to come along with that. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
the potential of being traded for them to get more picks here in the first, or to reshape in his image, however he wanted. But Herbert hangs around,
yeah,
and they're getting him some help.
yeah. I mean, I think Harbaugh is definitely a believer in Herbert. He would have found a way to get rid of him if he could have. So I just see Herbert. His first year, he had a ton of pass attempts. At least the first, second, third season, we've come accustomed to Herbert just slinging it a ton, and now we have to get used to Justin Herbert, the game manager. I think is more what we're going to see from him. At least that's probably what Harbaugh wants. Of course, the Chargers have to be winning games to be in the lead and pounding the ball in the second half. Uh, so if their defense doesn't take form, then it may not matter, and he may still be slinging it 40 plus times a week. Uh, and I do think the McConkey pick shows some confidence in like sort of a vote of confidence to Quentin Johnston. You mentioned like getting a better outside receiver, but that is what Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston are. They're the outside guys. So I think McConkey is a good fit for their scheme. Just as far as fantasy wise and dynasty wise, I don't know that this is a real home run pick for us. You know, there's some other teams that had bigger needs maybe at wide receiver, and so there are bigger holes, such as the let's see, I don't want to skip over too many guys, but like the Jets scooped up Malachi Corley a little later in that second round. I think that was just an absolute magical fit. Um, with Malachi Corley and his the screen game. Aaron Rodgers loves to throw those screens to receivers, and the Jets not having much in that receiver room outside of Garrett Wilson. I think that Corley can definitely thrive in that role with the Jets. Any thoughts on Corley there? Yep. Yeah.
Was fantastic.
Yeah.
They hit a home run with this one. Round, it's that's great. Aaron Rodgers got to be excited about this one.
Tampa just scooped up Jalen McMillan. So we got an extra body in the wide receiver room. All right. I don't mind that pick. He slid down, pick 92. I mean, there's people who definitely had him as a second rounder, talent wise. So
That's three receivers from Washington, and there's 3 rounds, one in each.
yeah, they had plenty of talent there for Penix to throw to. All right, so if we go back into the second round, we talked about Keon Coleman and McConkey, then jumped the gun to Corley. Before that, though, we had what? Let's see, Jalen Polk, the other Washington receiver. I got to be honest, I didn't watch a lot of film on him. I know he was pretty explosive on the outside opposite of Roma Dunze. What do you? I don't know. Did you watch a lot of film on, or some film at least a little on Polk, or your thoughts? Hmm.
Had a lot of picks.
Uh huh. Right.
Next to Chicago. Okay. So he soaks up a lot of the attention over there. He's a good guy. He's got good wingspan, good catch radius, nice hands. I think his route tree is pretty good
Hmm.
for where he is. And landing in New England gives them, I mean, it gives them a good young receiver at a good value. And it also pairs it with Drake May. Now, whether or not Drake May's the starter week 1, don't know yet. Know that they'll be in a competition for that. But either which way, it does nothing but help build around their number 3 pick at this point. You know,
Yeah. I think that May, he might just take the bull by the horns and start week 1 there. I wouldn't be surprised if Brissett starts, the month of September, and then they turn it over to May. Again, it kind of depends. I know we talked earlier this morning about it a little. I think it just depends if they're winning games or not. No, nobody really is expecting the Patriots to blow the doors off of people this season. So it's kind of you know, a mulligan season for the Patriots, where they could lose 10 or 12 games and nobody will bat an eye at it. Um, but I guess, do you think Jalen Polk, I guess, is he an alpha type, or is he probably just more of what we should be? Yeah, he's a solid wide receiver too, right? So we just kind of want to temper our expectations with these guys in this range, I think, is what I'm getting at.
solid start.
Yeah.
Every wide receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, New England was definitely one of the landing spots I had targeted in my wide receiver video I did earlier this week. I think they were one of the top 5 spots, just because of the amount of targets that were available. I mean, who else is in that receiver room? They got what, Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry, and then Pop Douglas is the slot guy, right? So there's plenty of targets that are going to be available. And they added KJ Osborne too. But I mean, are we really scared of any of those guys? No. So the opportunity is wide open for Polk to explode onto the scene if he can. So after Polk, then we had, let's see, which other receivers went in the second round. Um,
Well, yeah, Jonathan Brooks go.
okay, at running back, yeah. Yeah, that's who Washington grabbed. That's right. What do you? Yep, right. We just had the third guy from Illinois go, and I don't know why Sanders is falling, but obviously everybody in the league thinks this is thinking the same thing with him. So he still could get taken before the end of the day. Here, we got a few more picks.
Both Ravens are up. You know that they like tight ends.
They do like their tight ends there for sure. Yes, they need an extra body to. There we go. That's right. AD Mitchell finally did go. I love that pick for the Colts. I don't love it for AD Mitchell's fantasy output necessarily, but I do. Unless you're in best ball. In best ball, I think it would be it's a great fit for you, because these are the picks that are going to be mostly second round picks in your rookie drafts, and this is where you want to take those dart throws on the home run hitters. And I see AD Mitchell as that guy who's going to blow up 3 or 4 times in a season, right? With the big cannon from Richardson in Indy, I can see it happening. But with Michael Pittman on the other side, and then the limited amount of pass attempts that the Colts actually will have, they're not going to be trying to throw it 40 times a game with Anthony Richardson. So I just see AD Mitchell, and again, we just want to temper our expectations with him, but it is a good fit in Indy.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, if you go first Texas, but off in Georgia, transferred out to Texas. Given when you look at what was around him in Georgia, it kind of makes sense. There wasn't a whole lot of footballs left for him to go after. That being said, when you look at his production at Texas, last year I think he had two games where he broke 100 yards, and I mean he broke them like 150 and then 140 something like that with multiple touchdowns. But it really skewed his numbers because he wasn't breaking 100 yards every game, nor that many. So I do think that lines up exactly with what you're saying. The boom or bust, playing a 17-game schedule, having 3 to 4 weeks there where you do boom. I'm not going to say it's going to be his rookie year, but it will. That's the type player he's going to be, and best ball makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Just a tough guy to have on your bench in a lineup league because he's going to be one of those guys where you never know when to start him, I guess. And
Right.
yeah. So moving along after AD Mitchell, did we have who else do we have out there? Trying to go down the list at the top of my head. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about Jonathan Brooks that, pretty much put a fork into Chuba Hubbard's value there, right? Those of you. Yeah. Yes. Second he walks in the door, he's the top guy. Yeah.
Big right. It's just I have a hard time putting a lot of faith into him. I think that actually hurts his value a little bit. I think the high projection or the money was saying he was going to end up in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, Dallas would have been the golden ticket for sure for Jonathan Brooks, but the Panthers, they brought in a new offensive mind from Tampa, Dave Canales. They added Deontay Johnson, scooped up Xavier Leggett at the end of the first round, and things are starting to, maybe year one was not a good season for Bryce Young. It's easy to say that, but now they actually have the money and they had the right picks available there, so they're building some talent around Bryce Young. Maybe he's got a shot to bounce back this year.
Maybe so. I think that kind of softens the blow of everything they gave up for Bryce Young. Being able to get a player of Jonathan Brooks's caliber there in the second round.
How about this? Are you all over Will Levis over Bryce Young still? Would you say that?
From a fantasy perspective,
yes, from a fantasy perspective. Yeah.
I mean, in reality as well, I would probably take Will Levis over Bryce Young.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little more faith in the Titans franchise as a whole.
Being a straight quarterbacks in the NFL, I don't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't see it.
Yeah, it's hard to get over those videos we saw last off season when he was barely able to see over the center when he was taking snaps from the center. I believe it. Drew Brees was one of the, if not the smartest guys to do it. So I mean, I don't doubt it one bit. So, speaking of Drew Brees, his former coach, Sean Payton, he went out and let's see, who did the Broncos grab? So they had Bo Nix in the first round. Did they have any second round picks? I forget who they took.
They did take they trade out to the third round.
Okay.
Oh man.
So they didn't really help anything yet there. That's all right. I mean,
Ellis from Utah, edge rusher, defensive player.
Okay. All right. The Broncos are just a team that seems to need help everywhere. So I don't know how much hope I want to put on Bo Nix. Um, I guess Bo Nix is one of those guys who's going to be a tough. There's going to be a tough decision to make, like at the end of the first round in our dynasty drafts. I mean, who are you putting ahead of the other? Are you going Bo Nix, or all things equal? You're just going best player available. Are you going Bo Nix or Jonathan Brooks?
What with the assuming the 112?
Somewhere in a pick late first, anywhere from 109 to 112, let's say. And I'm not asking you to show your hand at all with this, because I know you have the 109 in the league we're in. I'm not asking you to show your hand. I'm just saying in general, who do you think you'd you'd rate over the other at this point? Jonathan Brooks in Carolina or Bo Nix in Denver? I know you didn't love that pick. You preferred McCarthy to go to, right? It was McCarthy you preferred to go to Denver. Yeah. Yeah.
Different styles. He's thrown a lot of quick balls. He's seen a lot of coverages. Um, I'm still not convinced about him going through his progressions because that offense was pretty much tailored for him to make one read and grow.
Yeah.
So it's a little misleading there. I'm not the biggest fan of him, so I would probably lean a different direction. I'm not saying it would be Jonathan Brooks, but there's still a ton of receivers out there that are great.
Yeah.
As well. So I would, and the other thing too is, and that's an idea I'm playing with myself. If I don't like what's there, I kick that pick to next year.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure somebody's got a future 2025 that would like to draft in that spot. So
yes. I wouldn't doubt that. Not with the talent in this draft. There's somebody's going to want one of those guys. You could even throw Trey Benson into the mix now. What do you think of that pick with Arizona? If we move to I think that was right at the beginning of round 3. The Cardinals scooped up the heir apparent to James Conner. We all knew the time would come at some point for Mr. Connor. The guy seems to just keep chugging along forever and ever right now. He's now 29, I believe. Right. So we can pretty much guarantee Benson's going to get some work at some point this year. We know that.
Oh, I'm sure he's going to get plenty of work. Not if necessarily Connor's hurt. Just, I mean, most teams are leaning towards that running back by committee.
Sure. Yeah.
Pretty mentioned features like really soft hands. He's pretty good pass protection. So I think he's going to add that receiving threat that James Conner, even in a breakout season, can't do. But last year was his breakout season. He busted 1,000 yards, but he only had 126 in the air. So 100, not more than 100, not too much more. So not really a pass catching back. And with his injury history, I love this. There's not a ton of treads taken off Vincent's tires.
No.
Coming out of Florida State. So, yeah, I love that pick. I think Trey Benson's a wonderful grab. And getting some early playing time, mixing in with James Conner by next year, the return on investment could be really nice.
Yes. Yeah, Benson's definitely versatile. I know his stats might not have shown it, but that happens with a lot of running backs, in college, where the coordinator just doesn't have a lot of, or the team just doesn't have a lot of pass attempts to the running backs, and then the running backs show up in the NFL, and all of a sudden, wow, they actually can catch the ball. Like Kenneth Walker. Last couple of 2 years ago, everybody was like, this guy can't catch at all. He didn't even catch 10 passes in college, right? But I mean, he's shown that he actually can catch the ball in the NFL. I'm not saying he's LaDainian Tomlinson, but he can catch the ball, and I think Trey Benson will fit in very nicely with Kyler Murray down there in Arizona. So, moving along, then we had, let me think what the next, um, do we have another running back? Who was the next running back that went? Um, Braylon Allen has not gone yet. Um,
Corum, let's see,
yeah.
Trey went to Cincinnati
Okay.
to the Rams.
To the Rams. There we go. How do we? Okay, so let's go. We're on running backs, a little running back run here. What do you think? What do you think that Blake Corum actually does to Kyron Williams' value right now in Dynasty? Kyron Williams is right about running back 6 or 7. I guess most people have him just ahead of the likes of, say, Saquon Barkley, just because of age, really. That's all it is. I mean, if you're looking at talent, there's no question the talent of Saquon Barkley versus Kyron Williams. But the situation is what has been pumping Kyron Williams up. And now with somebody like Corum coming into the mix, do you think that we should expect sort of a drop off then from Kyron Williams?
Yes. Yes, from his value and actual production, absolutely. If you look at McVay's running back room, since he's taken that job, after Todd Gurley, everything's been committee. He's always had multiple backs back there.
I think he's had a different, I think there's been a different running back has led the team each of the last 3 or 4 years in a row. I think it is.
I think, yeah, I believe that's correct. And, yeah, I can't.
Well, there was Cam Akers, and then before that, I think there was Darrell Henderson. So you can see it's just been sort of a mess there. It's just the next man up, right? And that's what I kind of have always seen from Kyron Williams. He did terrible at the combine. His draft stock plummeted, and he just fell into the laps of the Rams in like the 5th round. And it was just pure volume that got him his points last season. So for me, I guess I just look at it like, hey, he wasn't somebody I was out there trying to acquire anyway. And now this just kind of sort of proves it, I guess, that I'm,
Yeah, I see it. So,
yeah.
just not an all-time. But he's definitely someone I'd be looking to trade.
Right. If I could flip him for a good wide receiver, I definitely would look that route. If you could do that somehow, cross positional deal, that would be what I'd definitely be looking to do with Kyron Williams now, although it might be too late with Corum now getting taken there. Marshawn Lloyd. And where did he end up going? Oh yeah, to the Packers. That's right. Yeah, just jumbling up the mess there for the Packers. But hey, the talent is there for sure. He's going to be, somebody you might have to wait a couple of years to see the benefit from. But how running backs go. I mean, it's just the next guy up with the amount of injuries that happen with running backs. So I don't know.
Depending on your league makeup, I mean, in our league, you only have to start one running.
Right.
Position that is so volatile. Now, you gotta have a few of them, but it's not like you have to start 2 or 3.
Right.
So, yeah, you have the opportunity. You got flex spots, this, that, and the other. But the league has moved away from valuing running backs. So has fantasy.
Yep.
So has fantasy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Fantasy has definitely followed suit with the way the NFL has gone at the running back position. So I think it's just ever apparent. I mean, we had what two running backs went in the second round this year. Um, last season we had Bijan and Gibbs go in the first round, but oh, it was just Brooks in the first. Okay. Yeah. Now I do expect a number of them to get taken probably in the fourth round. We're nearing the end of the third here, and um, you still have Braylon Allen on the board. Uh, there's Jalen Wright on the board. There's plenty of talented backs, and I think they all do have the NFL build. Guys like Ray Davis are out there. Um, there's Tyron Tracy from Purdue. So there's a lot of exciting guys, and they will have their roles with their teams. There's just no bell cows anymore. And I mean, honestly, what is there? Maybe five or six true bell cows left in the NFL. So I mean, it's definitely right.
Or it's just all
No, you don't. I mean, the last,
it's going to mirror the to some degree as to what's going and what's not, or vice
Mhm.
versa.
Yeah,
Leagues mirror one's coming out of college. College doesn't, they're moving receivers around and moving running backs into more passing situations. I think we've seen three or four fantasy relevant players that have been covered throughout this whole pre-draft process that were a running back that transitioned to a receiver, or a receiver that transitioned to a running back,
yeah,
depending on team need. So I think that's more where we're going to start seeing some of our bigger players or guys that can play out of the backfield, like a Debo Samuel, and also line up on the line and go out and run a route. So I
yes.
think that could potentially be a future type of what offenses are looking for, is
Mhm.
that do it all type utility player.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We're having more of those hybrid players. Um,
Yep.
so uh, let's see who else did we not talk about. There's Roman Wilson to Pittsburgh. That's you know, he's definitely like I mentioned before the show, he definitely fits the Steeler mold. He's that type of player. Um, and with Arthur Smith coming to Pittsburgh, I don't think we were expecting a whole lot of passing volume from Russell Wilson or Justin Fields this season. Whoever ends up taking snaps the most this year. Um,
Oh,
I do like Russ. Russ with Tomlin is a good marriage there. I think Russ can win some games for him, and yeah, it probably will take an injury for Fields to step in. But if they're not winning games, you know, uh, I could see them just turning to Fields to let it loose.
they need to
We'll
start
see.
firing coaches. They need to start firing coaches at that point.
I don't know if Tomlin's ever getting fired.
Guys Greenard think he is a good guy to have calling offensive plays. Which, by the way, the Washington Commanders just took wide receiver Luke McCaffrey.
Oh, love it. Love this guy. He's got the pedigree. Yes. Yeah, this could end up being one of those sneaky steals here for the Commanders. Adding, they got a receiver now for Jaden Daniels from this draft. I mean, they add to the room that had Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson in it. Um, you know,
I think
oh yeah.
pretty.
Okay.
I do. I think he's a all like he's a big body, but he's extremely athletic. Um, they're they're doing what Ron Rivera failed to do for any of his offensive or his quarterbacks, and he is they are trying to surround him with actual weapons.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that. So they're gonna be uh they're gonna have a different attitude. I'll say that with Dan Quinn coming to town. That team's gonna look different this coming season. I think, and then with Jaden Daniels, of course, running the show. I mean, that's a totally different style offense you're gonna see, more exciting from Washington, as long as that offensive line can keep them upright. I think that Jaden Daniels has a good chance to be the rookie of the year.
Yeah, sure. From a fantasy perspective, he could be the best quarterback in this draft.
Mhm.
With his ability to run, his deep ball, and the accuracy that he has, he could absolutely be offensive rookie of the year, and he could be a stud in the fantasy ranks too. Much like we were expecting after we saw a little bit of Anthony Richardson before he got hurt. Uh, I think you're going to have that kind of excitement behind Daniels. Now, whether or not that translates into W's his rookie season in Washington, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll see. Now, Alan here chimed in. We got a few posts coming in the chat. Alan chimed in the Troy Franklin disrespect. Teams will regret it. Yes, let's talk about Troy Franklin here. He was someone who I thought was a little bit overrated in my analysis of him. I saw him sort of as a one-trick pony. Somebody I saw in a podcast a few weeks ago, he mentioned how teams just seem, or at least some dynasty rankings seem to have Troy Franklin pumped up based on just simply off of his production. And they compared him to A.D. Mitchell, saying how A.D. Mitchell would have easily put up those numbers had he been in the Oregon offense rather than in Texas. And I tend to agree with that analysis there. We'll see. I mean, Troy Franklin's somebody that I wouldn't have been surprised if Buffalo had taken him at the beginning of round 2 to start today. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Troy Franklin and I guess him not even getting picked yet?
I mean, he was pre-draft, number 5 or 6?
He was in the top. He was in the top 7 or 8 receivers on pretty much everybody's lists. After the big 3, he was in the next 5 or 6.
I'm surprised he's still on the board. If kind of looking at the 4th round, looking at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th picks, you got New England, Arizona, and the LA Chargers coming there in the 4th. I would not be surprised to see them, one of those teams, picking a wide receiver if it's Troy Franklin.
Arizona would be a great landing spot there. That would be nice for the Cardinals to add him.
I mean, what do they have coming back? Greg Dortch and
Michael Wilson. Yeah.
Now they have Marvin Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
Can have a couple of young receivers here. So New England could add another receiver. As could the Chargers need some help too. So
absolutely, any of those landing spots could see for Franklin as he's dropped here. Steve-O says Luke McCaffrey over Troy Franklin. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think Luke McCaffrey is an all-around better football player for sure. Stats wise, we'll see. I mean, it comes down to landing spots again. But Luke McCaffrey, if you know the background on him, he played quarterback through high school and quarterback for 2 years in college before he finally landed in Rice and changed over to wide receiver. So he's got a good head on his shoulders, of course, the pedigree. So yeah, I would definitely lean Luke McCaffrey, especially now with the draft capital. But we'll see where Franklin lands. I mean, he could be a sneaky slide here as we go on to the end of the 3rd round and on to day 3 in round 4. Any other names out there that you're looking at? One sneaky name I have kind of penciled in late is Jaheim Bell out of FSU. He's a very versatile tight end. some some saw him as even the second or third best tight end just because of his versatility. You saw his numbers. He had a bunch of rushing attempts, few rushing touchdowns there. So it all depends where he ends up landing. I don't know. Any other sneaky late rounders you see?
Um,
How about Javon Baker? Javon Baker's still out there?
uh,
Yes. Kamid Vidal? Or is he the one out of Troy?
oh, it's Troy. Troy.
Yes. Yes.
Troy.
I love that kid.
Watson.
Yes, Watson. Watson's out of
Actually,
Memphis.
interesting. I like some of the stuff I've read on Vidal, and if you look at his tape, he's that smaller, explosive. I think in the right landing spot for him. He's absolutely a committee back early, but I do think he has the potential to be a three down low type back.
Mhm.
But depending on landing spot, he could be a steal. He could be an absolute steal.
Absolutely. Yes. I like Javon Baker. He's got some dog in him, and it just depends on which landing spot he ends up, whether he fits in with the quarterback and the uh, and the coaches. So we'll see. He's one that I think needs to have a solid veteran presence in whatever wide receiver room he ends up landing in to kind of take him under his wing and curtail some of the enthusiasm there. But he definitely can be a playmaker the next level. Alan chimes in with Devontae Walker from North Carolina.
That's as well.
Yes, not a bad name to throw out there right now. I mean, this year's draft was just so loaded with wide receivers. It was bound to happen where someone like Troy Franklin was going to fall, um, into the fourth round coming up. So it doesn't surprise me that some of these guys didn't get taken yet. I mean, only so many guys can be picked, and we've already had just an insane amount of wide receivers and offensive players in general get taken. Um, did I don't think did Spencer Rattler didn't get picked yet, did he?
Rattler's still on the board.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see where he lands. Um, he blew up at the combine or at the Senior Bowl, and then showed out well at the combine as well. He of course was like the top recruit of his class, but then got benched by Lincoln Riley in favor of Caleb Williams, who took over for him in Oklahoma, and then he transferred over to South Carolina for his last two seasons. But I see Rattler as a decent project for wherever he goes. Um,
Kind of where I'd love to see him end up would be somewhere like New Orleans. Derek
yes,
Carr's got what, a year left? This is his final year of his contract.
it's a very good spot for him.
Established backup behind him.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure they brought somebody in, but I think it'd be a good landing spot. He gets a full year to be behind Derek Carr. There is some offensive weapons already in place. I think that would a place like that would be perfect for him, and he's got a skill set that we've seen flashes of it. We need to see it more
Yes.
consistently, and playing behind a veteran for a year maybe helps get him there a little bit sooner, right?
Yeah, he's definitely a quarterback. He can make all the throws. He can hit those out patterns that NFL scouts look for. He's got a live arm. It's just a matter of consistency for him, I think. Obviously his confidence probably took a hit there when he got benched at Oklahoma, but he seemed to get it back in the SEC. And obviously the competition, the defenses were a little stronger in the SEC than the Big 12. So I think he showed out pretty well for the Gamecocks, and definitely helped Xavier Legette get into the first round draft picks. So I like Rattler, and yes, a situation like New Orleans would be awesome for him. I agree. That'd
Yeah,
be a good spot. Um,
I think him higher on him, or if it's behind what everybody would is comfortable drafting early. um, another one to look out for is Pratt, Michael Pratt,
yeah.
Tulane, another project. Uh, kind of like Rattler, he's raw.
Hmm.
I think Rattler's got a lot more upside,
Hmm.
but Pratt could be someone. No one saw upside for Tom Brady.
No.
But found a way to win, and I could see him being more of a time that where it's not a ton of upside, but due to
Mhm.
the right situation, just find ways to win games and put up fantasy numbers.
Right. Yeah, with quarterbacks, a lot of times it just ends up, you fall into the right place at the right time. Um, I mean, when a big injury hits the top quarterback, you got to step in and take advantage of it. And it happens. Look at, I mean, Dak Prescott. Nobody really expected him to become what he has. He was what, a fourth rounder, but Romo was hurt right away, and
Yep.
Dak took advantage of it. Russell Wilson was a third rounder, and he just outplayed his competition in Seattle as a
Yep.
rookie. Matt Flynn. Oh,
They brought him in too on a big deal, and then drafted Russell Wilson, and then Wilson beat him out.
yeah, I think Matt Flynn made the most off of one game than anybody I've ever seen. He had that 6 touchdown game for the Packers when they decided to rest Rodgers, and
Yeah.
Seattle decided to give him, I don't even remember what it was, a 2 or 3 year deal that was just crazy. And then Russell Wilson
Yeah.
didn't even let him play. Hey, I can't be angry at the guy. You got to get paid when you can, right? Oh, let's see here. What else?
National champion.
Matt Flynn. Oh, that's right. Who did he share? He was with Demarcus Russell, wasn't he? He followed him. Okay. Yes. I remember that. Yeah, they were a two-loss team, you said? Yeah. Well, I think we might see more of that now with the college football playoff expansion. So
So
that's fine by me. As a Seminole fan, I wasn't exactly happy about last season, but we'll we'll look beyond that. That's another that's another conversation for another day. But so all right. I mean, any more thoughts on today, Matt? Otherwise, I think we can wrap this up and look forward to day 3, the 2024 NFL draft.
yes, in closing, it's been I felt like a kid waiting for Christmas for this draft to get here.
Hmm.
Like you said, it's stocked full of players, which has made it more exciting to get into some film study, really dive into more research, and it's finally here. And we've kicked off at least half of it here, for most half of it. Um, I'm glad it's here. And we got what 4 more rounds to get through, and we'll see. There's a couple more diamonds out there that when was Puka drafted last year, 5th round.
5th round.
So there's if they draft something in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, and it is a weapon, like really pay attention. Really pay attention. No one listens to this about so there's always going to be some little diamond out there. Will you find it?
Yes. So pay attention tomorrow. There's still plenty of talent available, as we already mentioned. So, I mean, this was just absolutely a gold mine for dynasty for fantasy football out there. And with that, like to thank you all for joining the Birdhouse Dynasty show, brought to you by Choice Sports Cards, the number one choice in buying and selling your fantasy your sports cards over there on Whatnot with Kyle and the boys. With that, I'm going to end this stream. We're out. Thank you. All right.